it's Becky from Power Tools with Thread, and this is part one of our quilt along for the Howl-lelujah wall hanging from Urban Elements. I have been talking about this for a couple of videos now, so you guys could get prepared if you wanted to join along with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. Right now, today is December 7th, 2019, and today the pattern online is on sale. There is an automatic download that you can do, or you can also order the kit. I bought a bunch of fat quarters and some fabric, and I am getting ready to go. So I hope you join along with us, and if you are watching this, I don't know, a year from now, make this anyway. I think you'll really enjoy it. I have put a link to the pattern and the kits down below in the description box. I also have created a Facebook group. If you go onto Facebook and search Power Tools with Thread, it's open to the public. Please post your progress. It'll be fun to keep up with each other and see how we're all doing. So, all right, let's get started. Let me get this piece right here. The pattern calls for, I don't mind saying what's in the pattern, because if you haven't purchased it, you won't be able to do all of the applique pieces. So you're going to have to purchase the pattern in order to follow along. This is a non-affiliate link for me, you guys. I'm not making any money on this. This is just fun to do, okay? So the fabric requirements require half a yard of white. I've got that. And it requires 4 polka dot fabrics, 1/4 yard of each. I went ahead and got fat quarters. I just kind of stood around in the store and looked at the pattern and thought, okay, I need 1 of these, 2 of those, whatever. And it needs 3/4 yard of gray. This is Kona silver, all right? And it needs a backing, 1.5 yards of backing and 1/4 yard of binding. I get to that when I get to that, okay? So I will get a backing and get a binding near the end of this project. But so the first thing that it wants us to do is to make the stars. These 4 stars that go right here. Today's video quilt along is going to be, we have to iron all of our fabrics. I like to do all of my ironing up front and get everything nice and pressed, okay? I use Mary Ellen's Best Press in my sprayer that you're going to see me using. My iron is a Sapporo gravity fed iron. I prefer that iron because it'll stay on all day long. It won't cut off on me. It stays nice and hot, and it never leaks onto my fabric. That is the type of iron I'm using. And I am not going to back the fabrics yet with heat and bond. For the applique pieces, there are several different ways you can do this. If you purchase the kit from Urban Elements, they're already cut, they're already backed with iron-on adhesive, and you can just iron them on and stitch them down on your sewing machine. I am going to put heat and bond on the back of my fat quarters. Not yet though. I'm going to wait and use the piece of fabric that best fits the applique part. I'm going to show how to cut out the pieces using the Brother Scan and Cut. And then I'm going to wirelessly transfer those to the cloud. My Scan and Cut is the 650 wireless version. And from the cloud, I'm going to manipulate whatever I need to on it, clean it up, any lines that end up from the paper or whatever, clean it up, send it back down to the machine, get everything cut, and then I will use another download. I'm going to upload these to the Brother Canvas cloud. From there, we'll download those, get those cut on the Scan and Cut, and then the FCM file that we download, I'm going to download into my laptop and use Simply Applique to create an applique embroidery file. We're going to let the embroidery machine do all the work for us on this. See how easy it is to use Simply Applique. You're absolutely going to love it. I will put a link to that below as well. The best source that I have found for that is allbrands.com. And I am also using the Brother Luminaire machine that has been lent to me by All Brands. I want to thank All Brands very, very much for entrusting me with that big machine and letting me use it and show you all the awesome features that it has that we are going to use while we make this quilt. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to iron my fabrics. I will use steam. I like to do that, but you don't have to. So however you like to iron is up to you. So let's go do that. So I've ironed my white fabric and the 4 different colors that I want to use for the stars. So now we're going to cut the white fabric according to the directions, and we're going to get the stars cut and start putting together the stars. Okay, here we go. One of you had asked me in one of my other videos to demonstrate how to cut straight. That only comes with practice, guys. This says, from the white fabric cut 2 strips 3-inch WOF, which is width of fabric. So whenever I do that, I always start with the folded side down toward me, and I normally do it on the 1-inch line up on the mat, simply because it allows me to see the numbers. I mean, I could pull it all the way down, but I like to have a little extra room on the bottom to see. One of the things I like to do to make sure I get a straight cut is I start with the edge that is going to be my beginning numbered edge, and it doesn't matter where you start. I generally do not start way over here on the other end of the mat. Let's see, I want to make sure you can see everything I'm doing. I generally don't start over here on the other end, way over on this end of the mat, simply because there's not a lot of room to get a clean edge down here. One of the things you want to do when you cut fabric like this to make sure that it's straight is you want to use a ruler that is longer than the piece of fabric. If you don't have a ruler that is longer than the piece of fabric, it's okay to fold the fabric in half. You also want to make sure you have a sharp blade. That helps very much. And what I do is this is, it's folded, it's on grain. I don't generally take off the selvages. You can, you don't have to. So I'll just start, and what I do is I make sure I've got a little bit of ruler down here below the edge of the fabric. You do not want to start down here with your ruler right on the edge of the fabric. You'll get a little bite there that just won't, it won't cut through, and then you have to go back. So I make sure my fold is straight. It doesn't matter that both pieces are not together on the edges. You're going to clean that up. But if it's on the fold straight and it's nice and flat, it's on grain. And that's going to make a difference of how your fabric lies. That's a trick from garment sewing. So I'm just going to put this ruler. Now, my lines are kind of wide. Do you cut on this side of the line or that side of the line? It doesn't matter so long as you always do it the same, okay? I try to get it about in the middle. When I hold my ruler, I use my whole hand to press down this way, and I generally will use my pinky finger over here on the other edge to hold it straight. This one's kind of wide. So I just put it down and I start below the fabric with your rotary blade straight up. You don't want it at an angle. I start it below the fabric and do one smooth cut. Before I move my hand with the ruler, I come over here and pull to make sure that it's nice and clean. It's good. We don't need that piece. I'm going to put this back over here. So that's my cutting method. Again, I'm making sure I'm on a line and this line is straight here, so I know I have a good right angle. I need 3 inches width of fabric. On these Omni Grip rulers, I have one that has an extra 1/2 inch over here. I use that all the time. If you have one, be careful you don't. I've made that mistake before where I thought that I was on a whole number. It turns out I was on a half. When I'm using these Omni Grip rulers, I look to make sure that I have a solid line down here on the fold, and then I can see the edge of the fabric between each one of these right here. I can see the edge of the fabric. 1/2 of the edge should have fabric. The other side of that mark should have a cutting table under it. So I put the bottom of the fabric against a solid line here, and then I want to see 1/2 and 1/2. So I'm going to go to my 3-inch line, slide this down. Let me show you guys so you can see how I cut, how I measure. I want to make sure that this line is on the fold line and that this all the way up is straight. I want the ruler to be below the fabric, and I also want it to be off the edge of the fabric up top. Okay. It wants another 3-inch, 2 strips, 3-inch width of fabric. Okay. I'm going to pull this away. There's another way to do this, and I'm going to show you in a minute how, instead of working on the fabric this way, I'll start on the other side and work backwards. It works much quicker when you have a whole lot of cutting to do. 3 inches. Okay. Another 2.5 inch width. That's where I use this 1/2 inch edge here. This is where I measure it on the fabric. I don't worry about it so much if it's not matching with the table. I hope that makes sense. 1, 2.5. Strip for words, 4.5 by 24. I measure the bottom first and get that all lined up, and then get it lined up on the top. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Okay, and that's it. That's what we need. We had a little extra down here, but that's okay. All right. So we have cut the white. Now from each of the polka dot fabrics, and we're just talking about the stars, so only the this is extra right here. Only the fabrics we're going to use for the stars. I'm going to cut them all at the same time. Each of the polka dot fabrics, cut 1 strip 3.5 and 1 strip 2.5. Okay? With the fabric. So I'm going to put selvage edge up at the top. Make sure I get the width the same. This purple is a 1/2 yard instead of a fat quarter, so I'm going to cut it. I'm using this purple for the music note, one of the music notes, and a star. Let me get all these edges straight. And I might also use it, I think I've thought about using it in the binding. That's possible. When you have a bunch of fabrics, I'm going to make sure all the selvage edges are over on one side and just line them up as best you can. This is just to get as close as possible on these. They may be different lengths. That's okay. Not a big deal. I just want to get the edges as close as I can. See, this green one is being... You know, when you get these out of the fabric store, especially when they're in a bin, pre-cut, it's not an exact science. And so you just want to get as close as possible on these. But what we're going to do here is clean up this edge. Look at that. That's way off. That's okay. Okay, once again, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to try to get these. From each of the polka dot fabrics, cut one strip 3.5. See, I check all the time. First thing I'm going to do is clean up this edge right here. You feel like you're cutting off a lot, don't worry about it. You got to get this straight here. All right, my ruler is straight with the mark on the mat, and I have covered over the shortest piece up here. There we go. All right. Now we have a straight edge to start with. Three and a half width of fabric. Okay. And 2.5 width of fabric. Again, the edge here is more important than what's here. Don't worry about that because we're going to cut all this up. Alrighty. Set these aside. Those other pieces are going to be used for applique. Alright, and from the gray fabric, it wants me to do 24.5 by 24.5. Everything here on the panel everything on the gray needs to be cut to 24.5. Okay, this is 3/4 of a yard. It's a 27-inch piece, so I'm just going to clean up the edge just like before as a starting cut. Get the fold straight on the bottom. And then I'm going to trim this to 24.5. So when I do that, a lot of times what I'll do is start on a number that ends in a 0. Again, I don't like to start over here on the end. I mean, I can this time, but I'm gonna set this here. Make sure my fold is straight. And I'm gonna trim it 24.5. Is that right? You know what? I'm going to switch this and put this edge on 24 so I know that it's right. And use that 1/2 inch for my ruler. Okay, Now I need a 24.5 by 24.5 inch panel. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the selvage. I will fold this up in half. Your fabric, it should be anywhere from 42 to 44. So I'm folding it up just so I have plenty, all of it covered by the ruler, and I'm putting the fold over here on a line and getting it straight, and I'm just going to cut off this selvage edge. All right. Now I need a 24.5 inch piece. This is probably very unconventional, but you know, I'm limited on, believe it or not, I'm limited on space. I know I have a lot of stuff up there, but okay, I'm folding up the edge so that it matches just right, putting it on the line, making sure my folded edge is on a line. I'm going to go to 24.5. Okay, there's my 24.5 by 24.5 inch square right there. Okay, and now I need 2 3.5 by 24.5 inch pieces. This is what you do when your ruler's not long enough. You just fold it up and hold it steady to the 3.5 inch line. Alright, there's our 2 3.5 by 24.5 inch pieces. There we go. Now, it says from one white 3-inch strip, I think this is one here, let me make sure. Yep. Cut 16 rectangles, 2.5 by 3. Okay. So the easiest way to do that, you can measure from the mat or you can measure on the ruler. When I do this, I like to measure from the mat. Okay, so this strip is folded in half, so I'm going to get 2 for each cut. I am going to put the selvage edge. I'm going to put the selvage edge just over a line. It doesn't matter which line. I'm going to use a smaller ruler. And I'm going to trim off the selvage on that end line. Okay? I'm going to make sure the fabric is straight on a line here. And then I want to make sure that the line on my ruler matches exactly on the edge of the fabric. I'm going to trim off the end. Okay. And then it says I need 16 rectangles. So that means I need 8 cuts. So 16 2.5 by 3 inches. This is already 3 inches. I'm going to cut 2.5 inch strips here. 2.5 inch. 1, 2.5. Okay. So 1, 2. 3. Whoop. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Cutting like that is much more accurate because you're just constantly moving away from your last cut instead of having to pick up, remove, put it back down. That is just an easier way. I took a Craftsy class. It was called Cut to It, and that was the method that she showed, and I always use that whenever I have a lot of cutting I need to do. Okay, the next one. Cut the second 3-inch strip in half. Okay. Pardon my reach. Cut it in half. Okay. You can do it with scissors or just gonna put it on a line. Trim the end. Little tiny piece. All right. Cut 8 2.5 by 3-inch rectangles. Okay. We're just gonna. So now it says to cut 8. Let's see. I see. So it says to cut 8 8 2.5 by 3-inch rectangles. Okay, we're on this line. One. Okay. And then it says to cut the next strip down to 2.5. It says with the remaining 3-inch strip, cut it down to 2.5. From that and the remaining 2.5-inch strip, cut 24 2.5 by 2.5-inch squares. Okay, so I'm going to cut this to 2.5. I'll fold it exactly in half. Right. We've got 3 pieces here. It wants 24 squares, so we need to do 8 cuts. Let me trim off the selvage. Who says girls don't do STEM? There's so much math here. 2. All right, there's our 24 2.5-inch squares. From each 3.5-inch polka dot strip, first cut off one piece 3.5 by 3. 3.5-inch polka dot strip. I'm cutting this one strip in half because I had to. It was a half yard instead of a quarter yard. This is extra. Okay, what's it say? From each 3.5-inch polka dot strip, first cut off one piece 3.5 and then cut it down to 3 by 3. Let's trim our selvages. If you're not comfortable cutting a whole bunch at one time, you can do them one at a time till you get where you feel better with it. Cut off one piece 3.5 by 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. Okay. And then trim it down to 3 by 3. All right, there's my 3 by 3 squares. Okay, from the remainder of the 3.5-inch strip, cut off one piece 3.5 by 8. So let me get my 8 inches down here at the end. Okay. Cut the piece into 2 strips, 1 3/4 by 8. All right. This is where a rotating mat is very, very handy. All right. And then cut each one of those into 1 3/4 inch squares from each strip. Okay. We're ready to do some construction and sewing.